Alright guys, it's El Miguel with the bus. We're going to start calling it Trampas. We just finished the wash on the outside. I didn't do the whole roof, but just up as far as I could get with the long pole right there. It's just on the crest of it right there. Washed off all the funk and grime and road dust and oil and whatever else. And I want to talk about a little bit about what we learned on the road. When we went across the Blue Ridge Parkway, they were paving the road and putting that dusty gravel down like a tar and gravel surface. And I'm telling you, we had the windows open when we did that. It was fairly cool. And it made a mess. I'm going to take you inside, and I'm not talking about outside. I'm talking about inside. I mean, we're by far not germaphobes, if anything. But I can tell you this: when we arrived at our first camping place, there was a coating of dust on everything in the bus. I mean, like a 1/16 of an inch of dust all over everything. So we had to go in and wipe some of that down even before we got out of the seats and started moving around, and it was just crazy the amount of it. We had probably 3 rags that were throwaway rags just filled with dust. I don't know if any of that you can see. I think that's kind of, some of that's coffee from wiping out some coffee we left. And we haven't finished cleaning up in the bus yet. We're just kind of, like you can see, our clothes are still in here and shoes and all that. My wife got stung by a bee or something, a snoodler as she calls it. Snoodled her on the leg, and so she's in the house not feeling too good. But anyway, we just got back yesterday. But even this dust back here on the bed, I don't know if you can, oh, I about fell down there. I don't know if you can see it on the blind still. There you go. Yeah, you can see it a little bit right there. That is in the bed. Literally underneath the covers there was dirt. My wife woke up the next morning after we got there, and she said even she could feel it was gritty on her face. So we had this window open in the back, but the blinds were closed, but the window was open, and then the window in the front was open. And so I just wanted to throw that out, because I'll tell you what, we used the air conditioner later on after that, and we never opened the windows again. It's just too much dirt. And like I say, we're not you know, I'm a plumber and electrician, so I'm in poop and filth and everything else all the time, so it doesn't bother me bad. But that dust was crazy. So gravel roads coming across the Blue Ridge Parkway, horrible. I mean, just absolutely horrible. But anyway, decent trip. Rowing a 5-speed through the mountains ain't no fun, but Trampas seemed to be up for the job. Alright, next thing I'm going to show you here. While we were in, I forgot what the name of, Franklin, we went to the Goodwill store, and we always hit the Goodwill stores while we're in any place that's new. We hit them and see what's in there. We found a brand spanking new Brita Magnum pitcher. And after the first place that we stopped, the water at the campground was absolutely horrible. I mean, my water at home has got a lot of iron in it, and we don't pay very much attention to it. But I'm gonna tell you, we don't even know what this was, like a chemical taste to it, and it was horrible. And we accidentally forgot our water filter that goes on the bus in the line. We forgot that at home when we left. We never took it out. It was in the office inside of our inside of a big file case that we got in there, and I just forgot about it, and we didn't bring it. So anyway, we didn't have any filtration on the water line. So we stopped and got one of these Brita pitchers right here, and that works great in the RV. It's one more thing you got to store, but I'll tell you what, that really worked out real good. Making coffee in the morning didn't make any difference about the water. You just fill it up the night before, let it set a couple times, and set it on the counter, and next morning make your coffee, and then everything's tasting good. Tea, all that stuff, great. And we have a coffee maker. I'll show you what kind of coffee maker we have. I don't particularly care for the cups, and I'll tell you about that in just a second. These cups, the problem with that is, if you wanted to put that in the microwave and heat it back up, which often happens, that won't do it. It's metal. So we're probably going to get rid of them. Although they do keep the coffee warmer longer, and they have a cup top on them. On the road, they're pretty good. Next thing, coffee pot, and what it does is it turns off. It has a nice lid on it, and as soon as it finishes making coffee, it turns off. It also has this top that goes on it, which spins around, and you can set that in the sink or anywhere else that you want that'll hold it. And now you got something you can use to go down the road and don't have to worry about it spilling or breaking. And the other thing is as soon as it makes the coffee, it turns off, so you don't have the burner sucking up juice from the solar panels after it's got coffee made. It doesn't need a warmer on the bottom of it. So that's another thing that we bought for the bus that really worked out real good. And I can't remember the name of it. Let me see if I can find it in here. We've used this one. I think this is a Bon Air. And it was fairly expensive. It's like 150 bucks, I think, when we bought it. But we bought it several years ago, and it's been used quite a bit. And we found another one that we like just as well, and it's a Mr. Coffee. And we have that one in the house now, and we brought this one out to the bus and left it in here. But like I say, this is a year or two old now. Bon Air. And basically, you just need to get something that's got a stainless steel carafe. And also, all of those generally, when they're finished making coffee, they make the coffee and they turn off. And that's what sucks up all the juice from your solar panels if you're on solar. You don't want that thing sitting there running for half a day before it shuts off after 2 or 3 hours or whatever. So that's a big deal right there. So that's something that we learned. Also, that little gadget right there is great for the sink. Keeps the this little piece right here, my wife came up with these, I think, in Better Homes and Gardens magazine, and that thing holds the soap inside of it, and it keeps you from having to worry about keeping soap sitting around. So it stays in there, and that little gadget on the back right there we got from Lowe's for a couple bucks, and it just holds that in place so it can't fly around. And the sink is a great place to throw things when you're moving down the road. We throw the stuff in there that we don't want to tear up, or moving around, sliding off the countertops. So we'll throw a coffee maker or this pitcher right here. We'll throw that down in there and kind of keep it. And we just throw a rag down in there so it can have something to keep it from rattling. And we keep our sink soap and all right here. We did have a problem. We could hear this thing going down the road. You can hear that. And that, didn't bother my wife, but it bothers me. I don't like any rattles or anything. But you can So that's a sound that goes down the road. We're trying to cure that one later on. Anyway, so let's see what the next one was. Oh, I think I talked about the cooler. As you can tell, that stores right up underneath our stove when we're not using it. It sits right there out of the way. And the cooler worked great. The only thing we had to do was we had to get rid of that little handle thing on the side of it. And we really don't need much more cooler than that right there. The smaller the cooler, the less you have to swap out the ice deals that go down in it. And of course, we don't use the ice. We use the little freezer blue things. And I want to give you guys an example of what this freezer sounds like when it's running. I'm going to put the camera right up underneath of it. If you hear that little bubbling sound, that's what the freezer sounds like when it's running. It sounds like a little bubbling brook. And I'll tell you guys, this right here, I know we got our name splashed all over it. I'm sorry about that, but this is a real deal Sundancer. I think this one is an 8 cubic foot freezer. It just sits on the floor. There's nothing else holding it in place other than it just sits where it sits. And we redid it. We took the wheels off the bottom of it because it has wheels on it from the factory. And we put it in here and bumped it against the wall, and we really wanted to see what it was going to do. And I've got a piece of wood back in there that I didn't even realize I left in there. There's a piece of wood sticking back in there, and I can't get it out. I can't get my hand to it. So we just left it alone. I don't know if you can see it or not, but yeah, there you go. But that wood doesn't do anything. It's just sitting in there. I forgot it. It's a part of a shelf. And I just forgot to take it out while we were working on the bus. But anyway, it's been sitting in there. But basically, there's a 2x4 in the back here. I'm not sure if you can see this, if I can get it where I can see it. Yeah, there you go. You can see it just a tiny bit back in there. There's a black carpeted 2x4. And it sets like a bumper right up against the edge of the freezer on the front side of it. And then we have another piece that's in the back that's carpeted also. That black thing in the back here, this right here, that's just a piece of wood that's carpeted. And all it does is stick out from the wall enough to keep this thing from bumping up against the wall. And that right there combined with this right here, this is just a piece of wood, plywood. And all that does is keep the little vent right here clear. And that's how you turn it on and off. And you'll notice it's turned all the way down, as far down as it can go. And that bubbling sound that you hear is it running. And let me tell you, and let's see if you can see that. It's an Electrolux made in Germany, real deal Electrolux. And it's a Sundancer, and it's made by Electrolux. This thing right here was about $1,300 or $1,400 plus shipping, and shipping's not cheap because it's a pretty good size one. But I'll show you inside. It runs off a 12 or 24 volt. I know you guys have seen this before. That's my wife's little ice cube deal for her LaCroix drinks or whatever. She says she certainly likes the regular ice cubes better than that. So I'll just let you take, whatever on that deal. As bad as the LaCroix taste, I don't see how you can tell if they're plastic ice cubes do anything to it. But anyway, so everything in here is frozen. And this is what we actually came back with that we didn't eat. So, you know, you can tell we were definitely overloaded. But, you know, it has a light inside of it. And there's wires in the back that connect it up. Way back down there in the back. I don't think you can see any of that. No. So, and over here, inside of this little cubby hole, which this just looks like a cover, but really and truly it's a cubby hole. If you reached in there or looked in there, let me think if I can, I don't know if I can show it. I'll try. There's insulation, there's pipes, and right there is the fuse block that goes to that freezer. So that's how that's running. Alright, next thing I want to show you that we learned off of our trip. I'm just trying to go through the things that we learned from the trip. Number one, 2 times that we had this happen. On the way back, this trash can is what we use to put toilet paper in, because we don't want to put the toilet paper down in the Nature's Head. Lots of people talk about that online. You can kind of look that up for yourself. You can do whichever you want, but we decided not to. So let me tell you what we did though. We forgot to take the trash out because the top of this is covered. So on the way back, we kept having the smell in the back, and I thought, man, you know, that tank is probably somehow or another it's siphoning, you know, the smell back up in the coach. And I know that's a problem with like regular commercial buses, that it's very difficult for them to keep the bathroom from smelling. And I was hoping we wouldn't have that problem. And so I really thought that was the issue. And if you notice, we have the front of ours is plumbed into a tank on the bottom, and the P tank goes to the bottom. So what we do is every time we use the toilet, if we pee in it, then we keep a little thing of water sitting here in there. We don't have it in there now, like it's just a regular bottle of water, and we rinse out the inside of that. And note that this has not been cleaned. This is a week's worth of use. And basically all we do is dump a little water down in the 2 front holes right there and kind of keep that washed down. And that kind of keeps that pipe right there cleaned out that you see down here on the bottom, this one right here. And that goes in, and that goes down beyond the trap. There's a trap right beyond this drain right here. There's a trap. And this pipe goes in after the trap. So as you're using the coach in a normal mode, there's enough water going through that all the time to really keep all that cleaned out. But you have to watch when you're traveling, because if you're like us, you know, we're 50 and 60 years old, so we go pee about 10 times a day, feels like. And so if you're doing that, you have to watch, because that'll build up. So anyway, so that being said, on the way back, we thought, man, we got a lot of smell back here. Not a lot, but enough, you know, that you could tell it. Well, what I found out this morning is, oh, by the way, you need to take the trash out at least once a week. Because this trash can right here, which sits behind the door, out of sight, out of mind, had wipies in it that were funky. And so that's where that came from, that smell. Now, I know I said there's twice that we had that happen. So right up here while we were camping, we had a trash can sitting right here, right in that little cubby hole right there. And I know it's not there now, but in that little cubby hole there was a trash can sitting there. And just in a couple nights, we had ate some kind of shrimp or fish or something. Anyway, so I was watching TV, and I came in on the last day and was sitting around watching TV, and I kept smelling something, and I thought, man, what is that smell? Well, that's exactly what it was. And so here's my lesson. Here's my thing that I want to tell everybody. Less than 300 square feet, sealed up to the max, air conditioning running. You know, we didn't have any vents open or anything like that. No windows or nothing. Guaranteed, you got to keep the trash put out. That's a fact. And I know that sounds so simple, but you know, I mean, maybe other people will think I'm stupid for even saying it, but that's something that we really learned. You know, it's a small space, and if it's sealed up and insulated well, that creates other problems with trash. Any kind of smell or anything like that really amplifies it. And as soon as I took the trash out, turned the fan on for a few minutes, and cleaned all the funk out of here, everything's great. And we'll say this. That right there is a Samlux 2000 watt inverter, and we ran the air conditioner off of that on the road all the way, basically halfway down and all the way back. 95 degrees outside, and it kept it probably in the 70s in here inside. And when we got back, it was 96 or so degrees outside, and we flipped the air conditioner off, and in 10 minutes it was hot inside the bus, even with the fans on and everything else. And it's that much of a difference. And all that runs off the solar panels and the alternator. So that running on 12 volts, our air conditioner pulls about 30 amps running wide open, and that's what we do. And let me just reiterate something for you. This little air conditioner right here is an off-the-shelf, nothing done to it. And you can see how thin that is in the back. That's light coming through the styrofoam that's inside of it. So it hasn't had anything done to it. And it's just a Frigidaire manual 5000 BTU air conditioner. And I think I did take the little vents out of the top of it up there, which, you know, you can do that in about 5 minutes. And if you notice, it has that plastic vent cover, so it'll draw the air from down here. I'm going to put my finger. This is the vent cover. It's clear. I know it's hard to see it, but it's clear. And there's a vent cover over top of it, and it draws its air from the bottom right here. That's what that vent cover does. It keeps the air from being, the cold air from being drawn back into the filter. And just that one little trick right there seems so simple, but I can tell you it makes a humongous difference in the cooling of it. And the last night we were there, I kept thinking to myself, you know, man, that thing is kicking on and off, on and off, on and off. Come to find out, I hadn't changed the filter in it since I put it in or cleaned it, and it was completely covered. And I cleaned the filter, and even that, even driving back with all that filter being funky, I mean just lint on it, probably a 1/4 inch thick all the way across it, it still kept the bus cool. And we used that and this fan right here, which is a Vornado, and if you guys know anything about these, this thing right here is about, I don't know, $80. It's expensive, $60 some dollars. I think we got it on sale at Home Depot. But it's pointed so that it blows right up. If this door is open going down the road, which it is, it blows right through there and blows right up into the front. And that right there is enough to keep this bus cool going down the road. And I know that sounds crazy, but I promise you that's the truth. And that right there, that'll run going down the road off of the solar panels and the alternator from the bus. Between those two, it keeps the battery charged at 13.5 volts or more all the way back Doesn't do anything, doesn't hurt anything. Like I say, I got 800 watts of solar on the top, so they really kick in. I mean, they'll kick in and run 700 watts right into the batteries like nothing. So that's what we use to cool the bus on the way back. So as a recap, solar, air conditioner, new addition, one of these water filter pitchers. Of course, we got this one for $4 at brand spanking new in the box at Goodwill. That's another one tip we'll give you. Hit all the Goodwills everywhere you go because they're great. The coffee pot, stainless coffee pot with the top on it that turns off after it's finished making. The cooler, which we talked about in another video. There's also a red one that I keep tea in. I'm a tea connoisseur, cold tea. Vornado fan, works like a charm. And for God's sakes, don't forget to take the trash out in a 300 square foot space. All right, Michael out.